Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, November 4. Max Aarons excited about future at Rangers. Report by Martin McMillan. Max Aarons says that Rangers should be excited for the future under head coach Danny Röhl, despite their Hampden heartache against Celtic on Sunday. The German manager saw his side lose a dramatic derby, missing out on a place in the Premier Sports Cup final. A James Tavernier penalty took the tie to extra time, but Röhl's 10 men lost at the end of a controversial clash. Rangers failed to capitalise on a weakened Celtic side, guided by interim manager Martin O'Neill. Thilo Asgard's dismissal changed the course of the game, but Yusuf Chermiti, Nico Raskin and Jede Gassama all squandered big chances. Röhl now has to rally his players for the Europa League fixture against Roma on Thursday evening. The Premiership trip to face Dundee is crucial, and Aarons believes there are reasons to be optimistic heading into a run of matches that will define the season at Ibrox. Aarons said, "In any old firm, any semi, you have to be disappointed if you don't come out on top. However, putting that to the side, I'm really excited by this manager and what he's brought, and I've seen a change in the team." Rangers have all but lost their chance in the Europa League following defeats to Genk, Sturm Graz and SK Brann. This makes the visit of the Serie A giants almost meaningless on what could have been one of the great nights under the Ibrox floodlights. But Aarons continued, "Myself personally, I feel really confident at the moment, and I think we have to move on to the Roma game now, and before Sunday. We had 2 good results, and we really have to push on that now. I think the intensity that we're bringing into games now, both with the ball and without the ball, the intensity that we're bringing now, I think that is good." Supporters have been encouraged by what they have seen of Röhl so far, following his appointment as Russell Martin's successor. Aarons is eager to make amends for the derby defeat sooner rather than later and said, "It's been really difficult for them, but it has to start with us. We have to give them that lift. We have to show them the performances. We have to show them a fight. And we have to show them results and wins. Like I said, we had 2 games where I feel we've taken a really big step." Aarons knows that the derby defeat was a setback, but is keen to focus on the future and continued, "Sunday, circumstances, however you want to look at it, but ultimately, we're out of the cup now, and that's the frustrating part. Yes, of course, this feels like a setback. Like I said, it hurts. In an Old Firm semi-final, I keep repeating myself on that, but in isolation. We have to put that aside now. We've got to make some steps in the Europa League now with the results we've had, and that starts on Thursday, and then the league again on Sunday, which, if we build on that, we have to keep winning in the league. Aarons is confident that Rowe's approach will benefit the team in the long run, and he continued, I think the intensity that he wants to bring, he's come in and laid out how he wants to play and perform. And there's bits in there that from the past, when I've been a part of teams that push in the right direction and teams that have done well, all of those things are there to see. I think he's really brought that. He's brought a calmness and a togetherness that I think he's really good at that. Like I said, hopefully we can build on that. Report by Martin Macmillan. Evening Times Sport, November 4. Meet the man running 223 miles from Celtic Park in aid of charity. Report by Amy Miles. A man is planning to run 223 miles from Celtic Park in Glasgow to Elland Road in Leeds in aid of a cancer charity. Joe O'Neill has taken on the mammoth task in support of Maggie's Glasgow and Maggie's Yorkshire. The national charity provides free cancer support and information across the UK. The route is filled with meaning for Joe, as each stadium holds memories with his late father. Joe doesn't have a direct connection to Maggie's, but his motivation comes from reflecting on the support he and his family might have benefited from during his father's illness. He said, when my dad passed away, I struggled deeply. My mental well-being was seriously affected. Having access to spaces like those Maggie's provides would have made a real difference. Cancer does not just affect people physically, it has a profound impact mentally. Maggie's helps people find hope, perspective, and the strength to move forward. Joe's challenge aims to raise awareness of the emotional and psychological toll of cancer and to shine a light on the vital work of Maggie's centres, including Maggie's Glasgow, based at the Naval Hospital campus in the West End. He said, my goal is to promote the incredible service and support Maggie's offers. It's okay to feel scared, nervous or lost, but Maggie's can help you find your way. I recently came across a metaphor that resonated with me. Be a lighthouse. You can't pull everyone to safety, but you can shine a light to show them help is out there. That's what I want this run to do. You cannot pull everyone to safety, but you can shine a light to show them help is out there. Joe said that training for the challenge has pushed him physically and mentally, and he continued, I love the process of training and seeing how I fare when I step outside my comfort zone. I want to bring communities together, visit Maggie's centres along the way, and promote the amazing work they do. You cannot create something meaningful by sitting still. You have to take action. Although born and raised in Yorkshire, Joe's Scottish heritage runs deep. His grandfather moved from Scotland to Leeds in search of work, and his great-grandfather lived in Rutherglen after relocating from Toome Island. The connection makes starting the challenge in Glasgow even more special to him. Maggie's offers free practical and emotional support for people with cancer and their families and friends. Built beside NHS hospitals, the centres are places where professional staff provide support in a warm, welcoming environment. Report by Amy Miles. Evening Times Sport, November 4. Rangers issue statement after unsatisfactory SFA meeting. Report by Blair Meikle. Rangers Chiefs remain unsatisfied after meeting with the Scottish FA over the officiating in their Premier Sports Cup semi-final defeat to Celtic. The main gripe from the Hampden clash is a failure to send off defender Austin Trusty, who went in very late on a grounded Jack Butland, who had the ball safely in both hands, and kicked him in the head. Referee Nick Walsh awarded only a yellow card, and the VAR team saw no reason to intervene, much to the annoyance of Rangers players. Rangers Review revealed earlier the club would be seeking discussions with the SFA and an explanation of the decision. Those talks have since taken place, and Rangers have released a statement stating that they remain unsatisfied. A major factor in their dissatisfaction is the process of the VAR review, which they feel was not robust enough. They add there has not been enough change in refereeing in the country, despite consistent attempts to raise their concerns. The club's statement reads, "The handling of key incidents during Sunday's semi-final has again raised legitimate concerns about the consistency of refereeing in Scottish football. Club representatives met with the Scottish FA to seek explanations for major decisions in the match, including the incident involving Jack Butland and Austin Trusty. Following that meeting, we remain unsatisfied with the explanation of the referee's decision in that incident, the application of the laws of the game, and the VAR review itself, which we do not believe was sufficiently robust or thorough. We recognise that refereeing decisions can impact both sides of a game, but too many important matches continue to be influenced by calls that are inconsistent and difficult to justify. These decisions have real consequences, determining results, impacting fans, and affecting the livelihoods of players, coaches and staff, whose work is judged by outcomes on the pitch. The club has consistently raised issues as they have occurred with the Scottish FA, but we do not feel there has been enough change in how refereeing is being developed at the highest level. We understand and share the anger among our supporters, who have grown frustrated at the repeated inconsistencies in major match decisions that continue to affect the club. For the benefit of our supporters and the wider game in the country, we will continue to hold the Scottish FA to account and expect them to lead meaningful progress that delivers lasting improvement. This comes after the Rangers Fan Advisory Board earlier slated refereeing in Scotland and demanded an independent review. Report by Blair Meikle. Evening Times Sport, November 4. Why Scotland manager dropped Hibs striker and recalled Hearts captain. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Steve Clarke has revealed the reasons he dropped Hibernian striker Kieran Bowie from the Scotland set-up for the World Cup qualifiers against Greece and Denmark later this month, and recalled Hearts captain Lawrence Shankland. Clarke named a 25-man squad for the Group C games against Greece in Piraeus on Saturday, November 15, and Denmark at Hampden on Tuesday, November 18. He has left Bowie, the Hibs forward, who won his second cap when he came on in the 2-1 triumph over Belarus in Glasgow last month, out, and brought Shankland, who took his tally for the 25-26 campaign to 10, with a goal in the 4-0 win over Dundee on Saturday, back. The national team, who clinched a playoff spot during the last international window, can book their place in Canada, Mexico and the United States with 2 victories during the next break. Clark feels that Bowie has not been at his best for Hibs in recent weeks, and has been impressed with how Shankland, who won the last of his 16 caps against Poland 12 months ago, has performed up front for surprise William Hill Premiership leaders' hearts. And he said, "Lawrence has been good, Kieran's been good, but he's maybe gone off the boil a little bit in recent weeks. That happens with young players. I had a good chat with Kieran last night. He's fine, he understands. He's a big one for the future. He can be a big one for now. You never know. Maybe a couple of injuries before next weekend, and he could be back in the squad." Lawrence has hit the ground running again this season. His team are flying at the top of the league. Lawrence is getting his goals. If you need someone in the squad for goals, Lawrence is your man. I think his club will benefit very much if he keeps scoring goals and they keep winning games. He's shown that he can be a part of the Scotland squad before. He's been involved in a lot of squads. He's got the experience. I think in these 2 games coming up that we're going to need experienced players, and Lawrence has certainly got that experience to help us. Meanwhile, Clark has expressed confidence that former Hearts fullback Aaron Hickey, who has not played for Brentford since suffering an injury against Greece last month, and Billy Gilmour, the Napoli midfielder who limped off in the first half of the Serie A game against Como on Saturday, will be fit to play against Greece and Denmark. And he continued, "Aaron's fully fit. He is back in training. He was not involved at the weekend, but he is fully fit, so hopefully he gets some minutes this week when his club hosts Newcastle United." Billy came off with an injury in the first half of the Napoli game the other night. I spoke to him by text, and he assures me that he should be okay, so that's why he's in the squad. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, November 5. Bellamy says, "Celtic not on my radar." Report by Martin McMillan. Craig Bellamy has ruled himself out of the running for the Celtic manager's job. The Wales manager has brushed aside any links to the Parkhead post, insisting, "It won't be on my radar." Bellamy had been tipped as a potential successor to Brendan Rodgers, but his comments appear to have put an end to any speculation of a return to Glasgow. The former winger acknowledged the reasons for the connection, but remains committed to his current position with Wales and said, "I can understand the links. I played there. But to me, I love what I'm doing at the present time. I am completely focused on what's set to come. That's all I'm focused on. It's cliched, but I couldn't want anything else. It isn't on my radar, and it won't be on my radar." This follows remarks from Football Association Wales chief Noel Mooney, who stressed Bellamy's dedication to the Welsh national team amid the speculation. Mooney said, "Craig's done a terrific job with Cymru, with Wales. He's built an identity with us, and a style of playing that has really got everyone excited. He's a year and a bit into the job, of a 4-year contract, and we're completely focused on going to the World Cup in America, Canada and Mexico next year." Mooney further praised Bellamy's commitment to the upcoming matches in November and said, "2 massive matches that he's absolutely focused on. Look, When you do well in any job, I think you'll get linked to other jobs, and Celtic is a massive football club. Bellamy is going to get linked with roles. He's an exciting coach who has really captured the imagination of a lot of people. Mooney also expressed confidence in Bellamy's future in management, both with Wales and beyond, and said, "He will go from strength to strength with Cymru, with Wales, and I'm sure after us, he will go on to manage the best teams in the world. I have no doubt about that. But for now, we are completely focused on getting to the World Cup, all of us. We say, together stronger, at the Football Association of Wales, and Craig is right at the heart of that. As I say, 6 points in November is our goal, on to the playoffs, and then on to the World Cup we go." Meanwhile, Martin O'Neill has been made the new favourite to become permanent Celtic manager. Odds on the interim boss taking over full-time have been slashed after he guided Celtic to the Premier Sports Cup final with that 3-1 victory over Rangers. O'Neill had been priced as an outsider for the position long-term, but has now been made favourite by William Hill as other contenders drifted in the betting odds. The interim manager, working alongside Sean Maloney, has been made 9-4 favourite to become the permanent manager. After the win over Rangers, O'Neill had said, "I don't think there will be any conversation about remaining manager full-time. I generally don't think that would be the case. I've come in. Deep down I probably have enjoyed it a bit better than I'm saying, but not a lot." O'Neill leapfrogged Ipswich manager Kieran McKenna, who had been an early front-runner in the market, but has now fallen to a 5-1 shot for the Celtic post. Former Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou is third in line with the bookies at 11-2 for a return to Celtic to replace Brendan Rodgers. Evening Times Sport, November 5. Matthew Lindsay reports on how the team that went to war inspired Hearts' battle for survival. Football fans the length and breadth of Scotland will pause for a brief moment this weekend to reflect on the sacrifice which was made by the supporters and players of their clubs who died fighting for their country in the 2 world wars and later conflicts. The minute's silence which will be held before the William Hill Premiership match between Hearts and Dundee United at Tynecastle on Remembrance Sunday, though, will be particularly poignant for those followers of the top-flight leaders who will be in attendance. The annual commemoration always evokes thoughts of Macrae's battalion, the team that went to war for Great Britain, among the maroon-clad hordes, and this year will be no different despite the growing excitement there is about their impressive start to the season. There were Hibernian, Raith Rovers, Falkirk, Dunfermline Athletic and East Fife in the 16th Service Battalion of the Royal Scots, the first of the so-called footballers or PALS battalions to be raised during the First World War in 1914. But no fewer than 16 players from Hearts, who were widely considered to be one of the finest sides in Britain and were leading the Scottish League at the time, enlisted in a unit which was named after its charismatic colonel, Sir George Macrae, the former Liberal MP for Edinburgh East, along with 500 supporters. Macrae's battalion suffered devastating casualties during the first day of the Battle of the Somme, on the Western Front in France on July 1, 1916. They lost 12 officers and 573 men, nearly 80% of their attacking force. 3 Hearts footballers, Harry Wattie, Duncan Curry, and Ernie Ellis, fell on that fateful day, and a 4th, Jimmy Boyd, would later be claimed by a battle which is now considered to be one of the deadliest in human history. Gary Halliday, the Edinburgh bricklayer who was one of the founding members of the Foundation of Hearts fan ownership group back in 2010, believes that wearing a poppy and honouring the war dead on Remembrance Sunday has a special resonance for him and his fellow supporters because of what happened to their predecessors over a century ago. He said, "When we were setting up the foundation, our tagline was, 'Own the history, share the future.' The history of Hearts is unique because of McRae's battalion. For that to be wiped out because of the mismanagement of the club by Vladimir Romanov would have been heartbreaking and soul-destroying." And he says, "Can you imagine what the remembrance service at Haymarket would have been like if there was no longer a football club? I would have been thinking, these guys went to war to save the entire country, and we did not step up to save our club. For me, that would have been unbearable." I do think the wearing of the poppy and Remembrance Sunday have a special meaning for Hearts as a club, and for all Hearts supporters, because of McRae's battalion. It is something the club should be built on. Hearts chaplain Andy Prime will conduct the Remembrance Sunday service at the Heart of Midlothian War Memorial at Haymarket on Sunday morning, and manager Derek McInnes will perform a reading that honours the team that went to war and the ultimate sacrifice which many of them made. Halliday and the Foundation of Hearts were instrumental in having the memorial, which was moved and damaged during the protracted construction of the tramline in Edinburgh city centre between 2008 and 2014, repaired and returned to its previous location. And he says, Jack Alexander, the author of the McRae's Battalion book, and the McRae's Battalion Trust did a fantastic job getting the memorial put back up. At one stage it looked like it was going to be moved somewhere else. It has moved slightly because of the tram works, but it is essential where it was before. It took about 12 years to get the funds together. My late friend Robert Craig, the architect, designed the paving around the Haymarket Memorial. He was a Rangers fan, but he ensured it was given a bit more respect than it had before. It was not treated very well when it was in storage, unfortunately. Bob picked out the quotes which have been carved in the stonework. He sadly passed away before we managed to get the paving done, so he didn't get the chance to see it. But there is a heart with his name on it. We thought that was a fitting tribute to him. It is part of Maroon Mile project, which is being built just now between the Haymarket Memorial and the museum at Tynecastle. There is an opportunity there for school kids to learn about it. You don't want that being lost to future generations. McRae's battalion are also remembered far further afield. Alexander was also instrumental in the construction of a memorial cairn in Contalmaison in France, where many Hearts players lost their lives in the early days of the Battle of the Somme, as well as the introduction of an annual ceremony to honour those who lost their lives on July 1. Halliday attended for the second occasion earlier this year. It was a wonderful day, he said. They erected a marquee and put beer and wine on for everyone. There were armed forces from all over the world. The club gave the mayoress a gift. They pretty much shut the village. The school kids are involved. It is a very poignant ceremony. The cairn is made from Glasgow sandstone from Scotland. It is the hardest sandstone that you can get. The Heart's Crest at the Haymarket Memorial is made from the same sandstone. The Macrae's Battalion Trust raised the funds required to build it, and it is fitting that there is something permanent erected in their memory in the Constal Maison. I went because of Macrae's Battalion and what they mean to Hearts, but my great-grandfather William Cook Halliday actually fell at the Battle of the Somme when he was just 33. His grave is not far from Lille, so I always visit when I am in Constal Maison. The foundation of Hearts is something that I'm proud of. We have now raised close to £20 million, and we are in a good place as a club on and off the park. But the way Macrae's Battalion are remembered should be a source of pride to every Hearts supporter. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, November 5. Nick Roger says, old course changes are par for the course in Link's evolution. Nothing gets the golf world into a tizzy quite like news of tweaks and titivations on the old course. Can you remember a couple of years ago, for instance, when the St Andrews Links Trust plonked some new paving stones down at either end of the ancient Swilcan Bridge in an effort to combine and combat wear and tear to the surrounding turf? Everybody went utterly ballistic. By all accounts, the patio-style appendage, which attracted global condemnation, hostility and ridicule, was the biggest offensive on a bridge since the Allied forces launched Operation Market Garden. The end result? The offending stones were swiftly removed. Everybody mopped their fevered brows and life muddled on as usual. Last week, meanwhile, a communication from the R&D arrived outlining enhancement and restoration work on the hallowed Old Course ahead of the 2027 Open. Cue mass hysteria? Well, not quite, but there's still been plenty of chin-stroking and pearl-clutching from various quarters who view any sort of cosmetic surgery on the Old Course as an act of sacrilege punishable by public flogging on the Bruce embankment. In total, 6 holes, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th, 11th and 16th, will be lengthened, extending the yardage of the championship layout by 132 yards to 7,445 yards. A couple of new back tees will be created. Some restorative work will be performed on the road hole bunker, while an historic playing route will be restored on the 16th to the left of the Principal's Nose and Deacon Syme bunkers. When it comes to the old links, alterations here, there and everywhere are, well, par for the old course. The old course has always evolved, said the eminent historian, award-winning author, and St Andrews resident, Roger McStravick. There's nothing sacrilege about this work. Try telling that to the former Masters champion Ian Woosnam. Back in the summer, while discussing various courses around the world, the Welshman made this proposal. Why don't you keep the old course as a souvenir, as history? He said. Build another golf course on the side of it, and make a golf course specifically for the Open, and play it there every year like the Masters. You can make up your own mind on that one. This is 600 years of golf history. You cannot replicate that just by building another course, added McStravick, as he mulled over Woosnam's fairly eyebrow-raising admission. It's one of the few courses in the world where you stand on the first tee and you've never felt more alone in your life. You get a shiver down your spine. In that area by the first tee, you are seeing Seve Ballesteros holing his greatest putt. Bobby Jones being carried off the green on the shoulders of spectators. It's like a movie set where so many great golfing moments have happened. You cannot bottle what the old course is. It's lovely how much people around the world care about the old course. That's the magic of the place. There have been times when course architects have been pulling their hair out when changes have been unveiled. It always gets attention, but it blows by. Back in ye day, when the expansion of the railways aided golf's boom and increased traffic on the links, Alan Robertson, the great king of clubs whose death would lead to the creation of the Open, put second cups on the old course greens. When old Tom Morris returned to the old grey tune as keeper of the greens in 1864, he really got to work. Noted McStravick, Alan Robertson did not think twice about putting 2 pins on the green, and old Tom did not think twice about creating a new 18th green, a new first green, chopping away gorse to open up new fairways, adding bunkers and effectively creating a completely new front nine. Imagine the Stooshy had social media been around then. Indeed, in 1800s, Stooshies were fairly commonplace. The road were an almighty row which concerned the creation of a tarmac strip from Golf Place to Granny Clark's Wynd, and the Rabbit Wars, a prolonged palaver involving breeding bunnies on the links, were significant chapters in the old course story. Said McStravick, back in the day they loved hazards on a course. If you filled in a bunker, for instance, there would be a riot. During the Rabbit Wars, guys were paid to fill in all the rabbit holes, and people were telling them off as they felt they were diminishing the challenge. Nowadays, of course, everybody expects to play golf on carpets. These days, the debate about the distances the modern ball travels and the impact such clatters have on classic venues like the old course rumbles on. 'Twas ever thus. Added McStravick, every generation has the debate that we're hitting the ball too far. We're no different to the days of the feathery and the gutty. The debate from the 1800s has not changed. In this game, we'll always find something to moan about, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, November 6. Codder Golf Club in Bishopbriggs gets financial boost. Report by Christy Dorsey. Codder Golf Club in Bishopbriggs is among a dozen clubs and 2 local authorities who will share an initial £56,000 of funding to help bring gender equality to golf in Scotland. National governing body Scottish Golf has named the beneficiaries of its Women and Girls Coordinator Fund, which is handing out grants to partially pay for the recruitment of a staff member dedicated to growing female membership. The fund was launched in July as part of the Women and Girls Strategy, which also saw the creation of a Women's Professional Transition Programme. Each successful applicant will receive up to £5,000 in the first year of the 3-year programme. The partnership involves phased investment from both sides, with Scottish Golf's contribution amounting to £56,000 in year 1, and clubs and third parties contributing a further £25,000. Roughly 12.4% of all golf club members in Scotland are women. Applicants to the fund were asked to present a detailed 3-year action plan, setting out how they would deploy funds to create a sustainable role for a member of staff focused on female participation. Jennifer Wilson, Manager of Women and Girls Development at Scottish Golf, said the response to the funding opportunity was fantastic, with applications coming in from throughout Scotland. She said, "In our conversations with clubs, we recognised that while many had the ambition to sustain their existing memberships or welcome more women and girls into the game, this was a challenge in terms of dedicated resource. This fund is designed to remove this barrier for clubs and to help them achieve their ambitions." The successful applicants are Hodder Golf Club in Bishopbriggs, King's Golf Club in Inverness, Muir of Ord, Duff House Royal Golf Club in Banff, Inveralachie Golf Club, Bridge of Allen, Muckert Golf Club in Dollar, Saline Golf Club, Glencruiton Golf Club, Gourock Golf Club, Wishaw Golf Club, Merchants of Edinburgh Golf Club, Edinburgh Leisure and its 6 courses, and the 2 courses operated by North Lanarkshire Council. In addition to the Female Coordinator and Professional Transition Fund, the Women and Girls Strategy has also established a club education fund targeted at upskilling and retaining female employees within golf. The strategy is backed by a funding agreement with the Sean Connery Foundation. Report by Christy Dorsey. Evening Times Sport, November 6. How Martin O'Neill got Celtic over horrible Rodgers exit. Report by Graham McGarry. When Brendan Rodgers dropped the bombshell that he was leaving Celtic last Monday night, the news would have hurt many within the squad badly, but none more so than Kasper Schmeichel. Given the bond he had with the manager from his days at Leicester City, and the fact he then brought him to Celtic, it was, Schmeichel admits, a horrible experience. The Danish goalkeeper knew that he would be leaned upon heavily by the incoming manager to help steady the ship due to his vast experience, and that the younger players would be looking to him for guidance. And for him, that job was made a great deal easier by the fact that the perfect man to help lift the Celtic dressing room and to bridge that gap from the shock departure of Rodgers arrived in the shape of Martin O'Neill. Says Michael, "There's a Leicester connection obviously. We've met before, and he's worked with my dad on TV, and I've played against his team and all these kind of things. So we have a lot to talk about. Brendan, I'll always be incredibly grateful for everything he's helped me in my career. I've won the FA Cup with him. He brought me to Celtic and won cups with him there. So it's always sad to see anybody lose their job, and the staff. It is sad, but it's such a horrible thing, because it is just football, And as players, you have to get on with it. We had a game against Falkirk. We had a game against Rangers. You have got to go and win. Everyone knows Martin is a great character and, like I say, every encounter I've had with him has been a positive one. We have a lot of people in common from Leicester. We talk about the training grounds. Where did you live? Where did I live? The kit men and all these kind of things. All these people that you cross paths with in football. So instantly, you have a lot to talk about. But his footballing knowledge is humongous. And for me, I think the most important thing is consistency, particularly the youngsters. Maybe that haven't been through these scenarios. This is sometimes what happens. And now it's about absorbing as much knowledge and much information. You now have someone who has so much experience. Absorb as much information as you can. Learn as much as you can. That's certainly what I'm doing. So yeah, it's the way it goes. As well as that vast footballing knowledge, Schmeichel says that O'Neill's presence alone has been a significant factor in lifting some of the clouds that had been gathering over Celtic Park. And he continued, some people just have an aura about them. For me, personally, I've obviously known him for a long time, so I know the type of character that he is. And sometimes confidence is a massive thing in football. Sometimes you need a little arm around you, and he's been really good at doing that, particularly with the young players, and just giving them that reminder of what good players they actually are. There was a buzz around the local press pack here in Herning ahead of Celtic's game against FC Midtjylland tonight, with the media room packed out to welcome home the returning hero and to present him with a Danish flag to mark his 39th birthday. Despite his advancing years, Schmeichel says his recent form is an indication that he is still in fine fettle, and that he is enjoying his football as much as he ever did. And he said, I've honestly never paid a thought to my age. I've never felt it, don't feel it. I've honestly never taken any notice of it. I love playing football. I cannot imagine a world of not playing football. I'm fit and well and playing for a massive club. I'm playing internationally. Hopefully, with all due respect, we'll beat Scotland and go into the World Cup. Life is great, and I feel great. It's never been something that's ever crossed my mind. I've always felt that the biggest advantage you can have is age and experience. If you're still physically able, and you have that experience of 900 plus games, then that can only be an advantage. I've felt good all season. I think the way I've always attacked the game is that I look at every single action in a game. There will be no bigger critic than myself. There's not an action in the game where I thought I could not have done something better than that. I analyse everything. The aim for any goalkeeper, I would always think and always want, if I was a coach or a manager, would be consistency. That's what I aim to bring. Stability and consistency. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, November 6. How Rangers inspired an Armed Forces Veterans Initiative to aim high. Report by Matthew Lindsay. The phrase, "show us your medals," is well known in football circles. It has long been used by players, managers and fans as a retort to anyone who tries to claim superiority over them. But if Nigel Seaman, the founder of the groundbreaking Medals to Matches initiative, has his way, the taunt will take on an entirely new meaning at stadiums around the United Kingdom in the years ahead. The Ipswich Town supporter is hoping that having the backing of a major club like Rangers, as well as the considerable support of their legendary former captain Terry Butcher, will enable them to succeed in their ambitious mission. Former infantryman and prison officer Seaman launched Combat to Coffee, a social enterprise which aims to improve the mental health and employment prospects of armed forces veterans, ex-uniformed personnel, and ex-offenders 7 years ago, while he was attempting to recover from post-traumatic stress disorder. The subsequent success of that venture prompted him to set up Medals to Matches, which invites veterans to wear their medals to football games when remembrance is observed, and so strengthen the bond between the sport and the armed forces. That was 3 years ago. He said, most military people and veterans only wear their medals on Remembrance Sunday or at funerals. Medals to Matches is an opportunity for them to remember and honour those who made the ultimate sacrifice serving their country, but also to be embraced by the local community at a sporting event. It breaks down barriers between the two teams. Ipswich played Watford at Boatman Road on Tuesday night. We had around 50 veterans who support both sides. Normally, football would divide them, but it was actually the common ground on this occasion. They are all part of the military community. We invited them to wear their medals, and it created a conversation. If someone is struggling with their mental health, they probably will not wear their medals, but they had a chat about where they served, what happened to them, how they are doing, where they could get help. Seeing what Seaman, who served as a soldier in the Royal Anglian Regiment, was doing to help those who had gone to dark places in their own lives after leaving the military, captured the attention of Butcher. The former England centre-half and captain got in touch with him online and has now become their patron. Said Seaman, I had a breakdown in my mental health. After struggling for quite a period of time, I reached out and got some help. I went away for a 6-week treatment program. I had a coffee machine in my room, and people kept coming in for a brew. It dawned on me that coffee creates conversation and breaks down barriers. If you're holding a cup and the other person is holding a cup, then you have a synergy. I set up Combat to Coffee from there. Medals to Matches has grown from there. Terry suffered the tragic loss of his son Chris, who was in the Royal Artillery and served in Afghanistan some years ago. He reached out to me after reading a post I put up on LinkedIn. He said, "This is so deserving, we need more of this." He lived locally in the Ipswich area, so we arranged to meet up and have a coffee. It was quite an emotional chat. I think some of the things that I said resonated with him. I told him about my experiences, explained that I had suffered terrible trauma and had been on my ass, but was still here. He didn't speak about Chris that day, but he has since become our patron, and he has been very open about his son. He is an amazing patron for us to have because of the journey he has been on. I am an Ipswich fan, and he was a hero to me when I was a kid. But he says that I am his hero now. I think we have helped each other along the way, to be honest with you. Seaman and Butcher accompanied a group of Armed Forces veterans from Ipswich to the annual Remembrance Day event at Ibrox last month, and the Medals to Matches founder believes it was a hugely significant moment for the initiative. He said, Rangers are the first club outside of our network to embrace it. We brought 10 veterans up to Ibrox from Ipswich, and they wore hoodies with the poppy and their medals on them to the game. We brought them together with veterans from Scotland that day. Rangers treated us amazingly well. Terry and I laid a wreath on behalf of veterans. It was very hard for Terry emotionally because of his son, but he did it. He said that he would not have been able to do it 2 years ago. He is obviously a legend at Ibrox, but he is also a grieving father. For the Rangers Charity Foundation to embrace what we are trying to develop was an amazing thing. Hopefully we can grow the initiative next year and involve other clubs both north and south of the border, not just Rangers. But having a well-supported club like Rangers endorse what we are trying to do was very significant. More people are involved now. Around 18 months ago, I was running around by myself like a lunatic. There was not the opportunity to grow medals to matches. But I think we will be able to start reaching out to the EFL, the FA, the Premier League, the Scottish FA, the SPFL. We could probably find a veteran in most areas to coordinate it. We have got the template in place now. It doesn't just have to be football matches that we go to, it could be rugby or cricket. What is important is that people are brought together, that a sporting occasion can tackle mental health barriers. To date, it has been done around Remembrance Weekend. It could be done on any week of the season. A club could come to me and say, "We love what you guys are doing. We want to make this game in February our medals to matches game." We would be all over it. For me, Remembrance is not just November. It is 365 days of the year. Report by Matthew Lindsay. Evening Times Sport, November 6. Nick Roger reports on a peculiar move as LIV Golf embraces 72-hole format. Back in 2022, Hemel Hempstead was the site of a new and contentious dawn for the men's professional game as LIV Golf arrived on the scene. Now, if you've ever driven in Hemel Hempstead, you will know that negotiating the town's famous magic roundabout can be as perilous a task as trying to join the flow of traffic circling the Arc de Triomphe on a mobility scooter. Chaotic? Certainly, but such motoring mayhem is naught compared to the general havoc whipped up by LIV's emergence. In June of 22, the first ever event on the LIV Golf International Series, it would become the LIV Golf League in 2023, took place at the Centurion Club. It boasted an eye-watering purse of $25 million, over $10 million more than the prize pot at that summer's 150th Open at St Andrews. Hemel Hempstead may not have been the home of golf, but there was money in them there roundabouts. The opening salvos in the Gulf Civil War were fired, and hostilities would intensify over the next few months and years as LIV flexed its financial muscles. Leading players from the established tours were lured away by its outrageous excesses, and the men's game in the upper echelon became so fractured it just had to be put in a splint. Despite something of a ceasefire coming into play a couple of years ago, with surprise merger talks among the warring factions, things continued to muddle on as before. The other night, though, LIV Golf made a significant announcement that its 54-hole format would be changed to the traditional 72 holes, although its shotgun starts and team elements will remain. Could a communication from LIV towers? The move to 4 days of competition reflects LIV Golf's global momentum and evolution to deliver more action and entertainment for fans. So, it's out with the new and in with the old. The 54-hole no-cut structure was part of LIV's initial big sell, a shortened, more streamlined format for a fast-paced age of easily digestible sporting fare. Even the circuit's name was tied into this 54-hole identity, with LIV being 54 in Roman numerals. As many have already suggested, LXX11, the numerals for 72, doesn't have quite the same ring. It looks more like something you would accidentally type into a WhatsApp message when your unlocked mobile phone is shuggling around in your pocket. One presumes the Saudis have a decent budget for rebranding. As for the LIV players, well, they've become so accustomed to competing over just 3 rounds for jaw-dropping amounts of dosh, they may be tempted to ask for a pay rise due to the increased workload. The promotional bump from LIV the other night championed such things as innovation and how the move to 72 holes deepens the drama. Given 72 holes has been a golfing staple for donkey's years, it's hard to see how LIV is at the vanguard of innovation. From self-appointed trailblazers to traditionalists in the blink of a press release. This switch to 4 rounds, of course, may just speed up LIV's quest for the thing it craves most, eligibility for the official World Golf Rankings, OWGR, and a path for LIV golfers to play their way into the major championships. Since the league's inception in 2022, its players have watched their place in the world rankings plummet because of a lack of points. As a result, their ability to qualify for major championships, many of which use the OWGR as a criteria for automatic entry, has been affected. The Saudis have flung over $5 billion into this pet project. Money can buy you many things, but not OWGR points. That may change though. For those looking on, it's been another interesting development in a period of golf that's not been short of them. Rory McIlroy, meanwhile, had his own view on this latest twist in the tale. I think it's a peculiar move, said the world number 2, who was speaking ahead of the opening round of this week's Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship. It brings them back into not really being a destructor, but sort of falling more in line with what everyone else does. If that's what they felt they needed to do to get the ranking points, I guess that's what they had to do. Given the diminished status of LIV players on the world rankings, former world number 1 Dustin Johnson, for instance, is now 604th. McIlroy questioned how many OWGR points would actually be on offer at a LIV event. Added McIlroy, who has been one of the most outspoken voices against the LIV uprising in recent years. Because the strength of fields are going to be so weak, because a lot of the guys have fallen already in the rankings, I don't know if the ranking points are really going to benefit them. It will be interesting to see how it plays out. Watch this space, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, November 7. Craig Fowler says, Falkirk, I owe you an apology. There is a popular meme which has floated about social media for the last few years. It is a picture of former NBA star and all-round larger-than-life figure Shaquille O'Neal, along with the quote, "I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game." It is pretty self-explanatory. I didn't think that much of you before I see you now. And it's a sentiment I can't help but feel I owe Falkirk Football Club after their start to the 25-26 Scottish Premiership season. Buoyed by correctly predicting that St Johnstone would finish bottom of the pile the previous campaign, I committed to print, audio and video my insistence that Falkirk were the team most likely to do likewise this term. Going into the season, they had only made 4 signings to a squad that, at its core, was still full of players who recently competed in Scotland's third tier. And even those 4 signings came with red warning signs. A goalkeeper in Scott Bain, who had not played regular first-team football in years. A 37-year-old striker, Brian Graham, who scored most of his goals in the second tier. A youngster from Leicester City in the form of Henry Cartwright, who had only ever played youth football and a few cup games. And Lewis Nielsen, a centre-back who did not exactly impress on loan at St Johnstone last time around. Since then, they have only added more fresh-faced loanees with Trey Samuel Ogunsue, Kyril Wilson, Ethan Williams, and Philippe Lissa joining until the end of the season. The only exception is 29-year-old Sam Hart, who arrived on a temporary deal from Port Vale. There was not a whole lot of top-flight pedigree, and had I known about these deals at the start of August, before seeing them play, I would have doubled down on the prediction. Falkirk fans who listened to The Terrace were not entirely happy with my negativity. The common theme was that, because I largely focus on the Scottish Premiership, I did not know enough about the squad, and therefore did not know what I was talking about. There is a truth to that. I don't watch as many Scottish Championship games as I would like, but I do know the top flight very well, and certainly know, or at least I thought I did, what it takes for newly promoted clubs to survive, and generally teams who do not significantly upgrade on the core group who got them up in the first place tend to struggle. Players toil with the demand of stepping up a level. It not only asks questions of their talent, but also their mental strength and confidence. Some just respond better to being the big fish in the small pond. They had managed it going from League One to the Championship, winning back-to-back titles. But the same core group following that up with Premiership survival? I just couldn't see it. Well, I was wrong. Dead wrong. After the first round of fixtures, Falkirk are 5th in the table. Even the way in which they have accrued 15 points from 11 games had confounded my expectations. If they were going to rack up some early season points, I assumed most would come in the opening games of the campaign. They would be bolstered by the wave of momentum brought on by consecutive promotions, and catch teams off guard with their style of play. Then once they'd played a few games, other clubs could do their research, find out the weaknesses in their plan, and then confidence would drop. Instead, it's been the opposite. They picked up 1 win and 5 points from their opening 6 matches, including a loss to fellow Premiership newcomers Livingston. The pre-season predictions look quite ominous. However, since taking on Rangers in what would turn out to be Russell Martin's last game, they have collected 10 points from 5 fixtures, winning 3 and losing only to Celtic at Parkhead. Last time out, they dominated Kilmarnock in the first 45 minutes, leading 3-0 at half-time. It showcased everything that's been good about them so far this season, as they blitzed a beleaguered Killie with their sharp passing and elusive movement. The youngsters we mentioned earlier, Cartwright, Williams, Wilson, Lissa, were superb. Cartwright has been dominant just about every time he's played in the middle of the park. He's probably the most complete player in the squad, a midfielder capable of mixing it physically with the opposition and showing excellent poise on the ball. Wilson and Williams have been relied on quite a bit as supporting attackers in the preferred 4-2-3-1, but they are dynamic, direct and fearless. Lissa, meanwhile, is keeping the more experienced Hart out of the team with a couple of very impressive recent performances at left back, not his natural position. It is not just the newcomers who are catching the eye. First choice left back Leon McCann, out injured at the moment, has surprised even his own supporters with how well he has adapted. He is arguably even improved upon last season. Ross McIvor's excellent back-to-goal play, crucial to how the system operates, has translated seamlessly at the tip of the attack. Centre-back Liam Henderson looks like he's played at this level for years. Dylan Tate's obvious talent has continued to shine. Even guys like Brad Spencer and Calvin Miller, who struggled more than others with the demands of the Premiership initially, have blossomed in recent outings. It speaks to the incredible coaching job by manager John McGlynn. It's his system that's elevated these guys, both individually and collectively. If you were to say to someone a couple of years ago that players like Miller, Spencer, Henderson, McCann, McIvor would all be in a team that was thriving at the highest level of Scottish football, you would have been laughed out of the room. But McGlynn knows how he wants his team to play, and he clearly knows the type of player and personality he needs for it to work. They have all grown together. There is still a long way to go in the fight for survival. If Livingston, a bogey team to Falkirk last season in the Championship title race, emerged victorious at the Falkirk Stadium this weekend, then McGlynn's men will still only be 6 points off the bottom. Tougher times will come, especially if the injury crisis that has plagued the centre of defence spreads to the rest of the team. McIvor came off during the first half of last weekend's game, and while he is in contention for a swift return on Saturday, he is the sort of player they would really miss if they lost him for an extended period. But there just exists a faith that, if misfortune would continue to befall them, then McGlynn and his coaching staff would simply find a way. Sometimes you are delighted to be proven wrong as a Scottish football observer, and this is one of those occasions. Reporting on the Scottish Premiership is a significantly better job when more teams compete with an adventurous attacking style of football, especially those tipped to be battling it out near the bottom. Through 11 games, Falkirk have been a credit to the league, and I sincerely hope that continues, says Craig Fowler. Evening Time Sport, November 7. Butland addresses his Rangers contract situation. Report by Ewan Payton. Jack Butland insists he is committed to Rangers, despite having no plans to discuss a new contract at the club at the moment. The one-time Stoke City, Crystal Palace and Manchester United keeper has around 18 months remaining on his current deal at Ibrox. He has been a mainstay in the team since joining under Michael Beale in 2023. Butland admits he's paid some thought as to what the future holds for him at Ibrox. However, he insists his main focus is purely on winning games for Rangers, with plenty of time left on his current contract. The former England number one responded when asked if he's thought about his contract situation. Of course. I'd like to think people can see that in the way that I am, in the way that I approach my time here, and the way that I apply myself on and off the pitch for this club, as someone who is committed to this club. Like I said, I still have another year after this. The focus is on winning games, and no more than that on the weekend. For me, I joined here for a reason. I still have that belief, and I still have that desire to do that. And with over a year and a half left, there's really nothing to discuss other than the fact of getting my head down and trying to be as good as I can be at this club. Meanwhile, Butland has given his opinion on last weekend's controversial incident between himself and Celtic defender Austin Trusty. At Hampden on Sunday's Old Firm semi-final in the Premier Sports Cup, Trusty caught Butland in the face with a late challenge, an act deemed as a yellow card offence by referee Nick Walsh and his officiating team. Almost a week on, Butland has had his say on the incident and he says, "I think there's been a lot of opinions on it. At the time, I thought it was late. As a keeper, when you're putting yourself in that position to go and be brave and go in to intercept a ball, you'd like to think that you're protected in a sense from things like that. Seeing it afterwards, it was perhaps later than I thought in real time, so a difficult one to accept. Difficult to accept that that's perhaps a precedent that is going to continue if that's a similar situation against any team, regardless of who it is. There was a little bit of disappointment among all the staff that day from a refereeing side." On seeking clarity from Walsh, Butland continued, "I spoke to him about it at half-time, not at the end of the game, because the game's been gone at that point. I was looking for some clarity at the time. Like I said, it's just a situation where, between the referee and all the staff, that you're looking for communication between them, calm communication between them, so that they go through things and come to the right decision." Evening Times Sport, November 7. McGregor rejects Celtic curse theory. Report by Graham McGarry. Callum McGregor has seen it all at Celtic over the years, and the highs of last season's creditable Champions League campaign to their latest Europa League disappointment here in Midtjylland is among the starkest contrasts in terms of the emotional highs and lows he has experienced. To rub salt into Celtic's wounds, their already stretched squad will now be extended even further, with Callum Osman's dream week turning into something of a nightmare as he picked up a hamstring injury towards the end of the 3-1 loss at the MCH Arena, and Aaron Engels also waiting to see how severe a hamstring problem of his own might be. After the tumult of the summer transfer window, the departure of Brendan Rodgers as manager, and with their team trailing Hearts by 9 points in the Premiership, albeit with a game in hand. Celtic fans would be forgiven for thinking that a hex has been placed upon their season. As captain, McGregor must resist such talk, and when asked if he felt the campaign was cursed, he responded with a defiant message to his teammates to rise to the many challenges that are currently being laid down before them. Said McGregor, "I don't think so. It's been a difficult start, and there's been a lot thrown at us, but we're still in all the competitions. It's only early November, so the challenge is to keep winning and pick up enough points to be where we want to be. I actually see it as a challenge. The more that's thrown at you, can you still be successful and come out the other end? That's where we're at just now. We are already stretched with bodies. Young Callum came in at the weekend, scored a great goal, and was on top of the world. Now we have to look after him and pick him up. The squad will 100% be needed for what's a really busy schedule. That's football. It happens. Loads of clubs around the world are experiencing it with so much football. For a long period, we actually had all our team fit and healthy. That helps you win trophies and be successful. The guys who are injured now, like Cameron Carter-Vickers and Ali Johnson, were fit for a long time and played a big part in that success. Inevitably, players get injured. It's how you deal with it. McGregor was hugely disappointed by the way that his side lost 3 goals on the night in such a short period to an admittedly strong Midtjylland outfit, and he says that the Celtic players have to show more of the character they exhibited in the second half, not only in moments such as those, but also to respond to this latest disappointment on the European stage. And he continued, that 6 or 7 minute period where we lost the goals, it makes it a really difficult second half. But I thought the players took to their task okay actually. We got in at half-time, regrouped, and tried to get the next goal in the game and just see what happens from there. But it was not an easy night. We were playing against a really good, strong, physical team who have got maximum points in the group, so we always knew it was going to be tough. But yes, the sort of 3 goals in a short space of time killed us a bit. You have to take it into context. It is a relatively new group, big exertion at the weekend, and then to come here against a really strong physical team whose game plan is to make it difficult for you, throw the ball into the box and make you defend. That's a learning curve for the players, but we'll learn from that. I liked how we stayed in the game. Nights like this can get away from you quickly. The players took to their task. It's not a good result, but the second half shows there's fight there, and the boys are wanting to work and learn. The defeat and the nature of it punctured the feel-good factor that had been building around Falkirk since the return of legendary manager Martin O'Neill, and the wins over Falkirk and Rangers, with McGregor not sugarcoating his response when asked what the evening had taught them. And he said that we still have a long way to go. I think that's obvious. Nothing's been solved after what was a really good game at the weekend. We know that. You can't get 2 up or 2 down. You come away here against a really good side, a good club who know what they're about. It was always going to be difficult. There's a lot to work on, a lot of growth still left in our team. We know where we are, and we know where we want to get to. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, November 7. New favourite emerges for Celtic job. Report by Martin McMillan. A new name has emerged as the favourite to become Celtic's next permanent manager. Bodo Glimt manager Kjetso Knutsen has been backed as the bookies' favourite for the vacant position. The 57-year-old is down to 6-4 odds, having been as big as 6-1 earlier in the week, according to the latest odds from William Hill. That means he has overtaken interim Hoops manager Martin O'Neill, who remains at 3-1. It is still unclear how long O'Neill and Sean Maloney will be in charge of the first team, as the Scottish Premiership champions continue their hiring process after Brendan Rodgers' departure last week. Kieran McKenna, who was 4-1 on Monday, has drifted to 6-1, while Ange Postecoglou has also eased from 5-1 to 8-1. Lee Phelps, spokesperson for William Hill, said, "There's been a real swing in the market to be the next Celtic manager, with Knutsen now our 6-4 favourite, having been 6-1 just a few days ago. Martin O'Neill holds steady at 3-1 to remain in the dugout." Kieran McKenna has drifted from 4-1 to 6-1, as interest in the Ipswich boss appeared to have waned. Ange Postecoglou has moved out to 8-1 from 5-1, amid growing uncertainty over whether he would consider a second spell at Celtic Park. Meanwhile, Chris Sutton has called for a new manager after the club's latest defeat. Following that loss to Midtjylland in the Europa tie last night, 3 goals behind at the break, although Rio Hatate got one back, they ultimately fell to a 3-1 defeat. Sutton wrote, "Sobering night for Celtic, no great surprise. Michelin better in every department. Great to see Martin O'Neill return and the wins against Falkirk and Rangers, but I'd hate to see him stay on too long and damage his legacy. This isn't on him at all. A new manager needed in place as soon as possible." Celtic will return to league action on Sunday against Kilmarnock before the international break.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.